Hello there, welcome back. Now, this is the last video of the day. This is kind of a general free-for-all of different films I've seen that I don't think I could do a full video on. I mean, I've got like a few modern films, and I've got a Netflix one. I have got an old 80s comedy and an 80s disaster that I was going to do for What the Hell Is This, but that was not enough to talk about in What the Hell Is This, so I just thought I would just put it in here. It's just one of those ones that just never, it wasn't bad enough for What the Hell Is This or interesting enough. So I'll start off with the modern films, and then I'll go to the Netflix one, then I'll go to the 80s ones. So I'll start with The Flash. The Flash is the Ezra Miller starring box office disaster that brings back Michael Keaton as Batman, has Ben Affleck as Batman. It has another cameo as Batman. It has a few other cameos, and it's generally very good. It's it's an enjoyable film. It, it's a riffing Flashpoint. Well, Flashpoint's this epic comic that goes on forever, and there's like animated version of the animated version tries to give you an idea of the comic, but there's so much plot in the comic. The actual animation one is, I think, is a bit. It throws a lot at the screen, but I don't think it's very satisfying as a story, which I think is the problem for it. I think in this one decided to actually try and make a satisfying story, so it means you don't have tons of stuff that was in the animated version. You just take the basic idea and do that, and everything else can be dropped. You can read the comic instead, which is a much more successful route. The problem with the film, I think, is not the film. The problem with the film is, one, it's a Flash movie, and no one's really that bothered with the Flash. Flash is the supporting character in Justice League. He's a TV show character, but as a character in himself, it's not a character that people warm to. It's a character that needs to be built up, and a lot of people do not like Ezra Miller's interpretation of him. I do, but I can see why some people don't. Also, Ezra Miller has been in the news a lot in the last few years for things he's done, which what happened after this film was shot. I don't know how truthful everything is. It created a bad mouth effect for him, and I don't think a lot of people wanted to see the film because he was in it, due to them not liking his interpretation and due to him being in the film. And I'm like, no, I'm not going that. I think it became a thing of the film got the people who wanted to go see the film because Michael Keaton was back as Batman in it for the first weekend. And I think after that, everyone who wanted to see it has seen it, or everyone who wanted to see it and pay for it has done that. The film stars have this problem sometimes if they get in out of favour. Like Will Smith at the moment has that problem because of the slap. A while ago, Tom Cruise had the problem, and for a while his films did only okay because lots of people would not want to go and see his films because they thought, because of Scientology. So you get films like Edge of Tomorrow, which did not do as well as they should. Eventually, through the Mission Impossibles and some other films, he got back to where he was. But it took a while. It took a lot of effort from him to do that. I'm not sure Ezra Miller is really ever going to get that chance. He's going to have to become an indie actor again, probably. This film was a good film. He was good in the film. The film was very entertaining, but because he was in the film, that meant the goodwill that we should have built up from it never got to the audience, who might have said maybe we'll go and give it a shot, because it was maybe we'll give it a shot when it's on streaming, because that Ezra Miller, I don't want to give money to Ezra Miller. I think that's the big issue. So no matter how much good word of mouth it got, it was a bit crushed. Plus, it's a Flash movie, and Flash movies is a niche thing. They spent too much money in the film as well, which did not help. I mean, this should have been a Hellboy level budget. That's what the film needed, is a Hellboy level budget to work, not this epic budget. I also think that people went to see the film, want to see Michael Keaton, and the big problem they had, and people coming out for the film was, Keaton was great, but Ezra Miller was only so-so because I don't like him very much. I thought he was actually really good, but I think a lot of people seeing the film did not agree with me. And that's what even though you can say it was a good, well-made film, I did not like that interpretation of that actor. I think that really crushed it. And it's just one of those things, it's like, yeah, that can be a problem for some people. It really can be. But the film is really enjoyable. It has its problems. The final act needed a bit more space. There was a couple of beats in there that needed a bit more space to breathe because it felt like you were going at a good pace throughout the film. First act, you get the Barry's problem. The second act is after he's made a mistake, him trying to deal with it and getting together of this team. And then the third act is trying to solve the problem. And it's done a bit fast because I've spent so much time in the other two acts, and it just feels a bit compressed. There's also some wonky CGI, but it didn't really bother me because I'd heard about it before, and I knew based this film had spent a lot of money in the budget, and I think they just cut the budget at certain points. They said, like, this isn't much we're spending in this film, and that's it. So it was well directed. The way around all the problems in the film plot-wise, the time travel multiverse, they did well. It was well explained. You could follow everything clearly. There was just a problem with a star, which the film could not escape. There's also another problem as it came out a few weeks after Spider-Man Across the Multiverse, and that's two multiverse films with superheroes in a few weeks. When everyone's really happy with the Spider-Man film, and we're probably thinking, maybe I should go and see Spider-Man again. Because I want to see Spider-Man again, that one. Just like, so, yeah, I think that's another problem. A lot of people just thought, I'll go see Spider-Man again. Okay, next we're going for The Machine, which is the Bert Kreischer one, based on a stand-up routine he had about robbing a train in Russia when he was a youngster and his drinking antics. Now, this could have been a very annoying film. This could have been excruciating because it's a stand-up, and stand-ups in film can be dodgy. A lot of them really ham it up, and a lot of them love the material a bit too much, so it leaves you with a gap, really, that is a problem for a lot of films. This one actually understands that. Like, it makes a point of he's over the top, and they have a kind of more toned down version of him. They don't ask him to act that much. They ask him to be himself. And they have written a film around him so that they take something that's famous from his act and work a story around it that allows for other actors to come in and actually have supporting parts and actually help him get through the story and actually have a decent enough story that it's about a guy learning to grow up, basically. Learn how to grow up properly because he's doing a kind of piss poor job of it as a normal person, and he's not managed to bring together his crazy side and his normal side together. And it's him eventually doing that. And so they have people like Mark Hamill in it as his father. And the funny thing is like his father's portrayed at the start as being like his grump who's, bit of a dick, really. But after a while in the film, we see his point. It's like, no, he's just normal. He's trying his best with this guy who's an idiot. And the film actually kind of knows that. The film kind of is aware of that and actually embraces that element eventually. It's like, yeah, he does have a point about quite a few of these things. He's actually reasonable. He could go about certain things a certain way, but he's actually trying his best with someone who's not very good at life. So the film actually understands the problems with a stand-up being in the lead in a film. It understands that a lot of people don't do the crossover. So get a decent story that's not too demanding. Have sequences around them that lets the professionals do their job. Give them some good supporting actors, and just have them do something that's relatable as a human being, so he doesn't have to ham it up. And it works. Basically, he's dealing with the Russian mafia who want this watch that he stole during this train robbery thing. And he doesn't know where it is. He can't remember where it went. And he has to try and retrace the steps through this whole time in Russia to find out where the watch went. So even though there's the Russian mafia, that's just the plot points. You find that the Russian mafia family are all squabbling and all kind of they've got their own family issues. And it's funny because they always bring it back to relatability of it's about these family issues that get people going. But the mafia bit allows them to have some action scenes every so often, but it always eventually goes back to like people's flaws and people's mistakes and relatability, while still being a big silly comedy. So it's an enjoyable film. I mean, it's not for everybody. I enjoyed it. I didn't expect it to be any good, but I was actually nicely surprised by it. You know, so it's definitely worth seeing if you don't mind Bert Kreischer. Really, that's a big thing. If you don't mind him, you might enjoy this one. If you don't like him, you're not going to like the film. You know. Now we have Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which is probably the best of the new films I've seen, which surprises the hell out of me. It's now available in streaming and stuff now. I missed it when it came out in the cinema. I'm not really a Shrek fan, but this one really surprised me how good it was. It's very strong, and it's Puss in Boots having used up all his lives in a very carefree fashion, realizes he's no lives left. He has to actually make do with what he's got, and he's death chasing him. He's people trying to hire him for this job to get this very important super wish, and so he's dealing with his ex-girlfriend who he dumped. He's dealing with this annoying little dog who thinks he's his best pal. He's dealing with the Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and they have family issues. He's dealing with Jack Horner, who's a villain, and Jack Horner's henchman. And basically, it's a travelogue through Puss in Boots trying to actually understand why he's been such a dick to people in the past and what he can do about it and what he can learn from his mistakes and just evolving, really. He's just trying to evolve and find a better version of himself, which could be excruciating, but the way it's done is really funny because they're not telling you that's what the film's about for most of the film. You suspect that's what it's kind of going toward, but they're not telling you that. They're more about gag, a little bit of character work, and slowly building towards this ending. And it really works because the jokes are funny, the supporting characters are funny, and when they get to the point, they don't have it last for like 10, 20 minutes. They get to the point and then they move on. And they've built other parts of the sequences leading up to it, giving you a taste of the point is, so that when you get to the point, you can do it simply and it works better rather than repeating it ad nauseum. The way they did in the Black Panther Wakanda Forever, where they had the same point repeated a million times. This one is like, give you a taster here, give you a taster there, give you a taster there. And that's the end, and that's the point, and that's us. And we hope you enjoyed the jokes. And it all works. You like the characters, even the villain's fun. It's really enjoyable. There's nothing out there that it just surprised the hell out of me. There's nothing there to be offended by. All the jokes are wonderfully silly. The worlds they show are enjoyably silly and imaginative. It just really works, and it's one of those films that has no right to be as good as it is because no one expected it to be that good. Right, so those are the films I saw that were, on release in the cinemas. Now I'm going to the Netflix film. Now we're going from the best to the worst here. Now, objectively, this is not the worst film on the list. It's just one I hated most, which is Extraction 2. I love this film. Thankfully, for anyone watching this video, I have gone beyond the rage of just finishing watching it. Now it's just like, I just hated this film. I did not like Extraction that much. I enjoyed it enough as a big dumb action movie, but the second one's so much worse. The first one has a bit of a thing of being like almost a video game. The second one is a pure video game. You're going from section to section like you would do a video game, watching someone shoot people. And the first big action scene, escaping into a prison, getting someone out, and then going to a train and shooting down helicopters and stuff, is a level in a video game. I mean, the first section, what you did the Raid 2 prison scene, mixed with a bit of Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, Escape from Prison, Russian prison scene, and you squash them together and make it like a video game with lots of fight scenes, but all the fight scenes in the prison look like the Raid 2, and all the fight scenes, I don't know, a bit of John Wick thrown in there. But this is not as good as any John Wick film. John Wick films have a sense of humour and a sense of build through the action scenes. This one is just brutality, brutality, brutality. There's some nice bits here or there, but for every gag, there's like a terrible blind dialogue or terrible of acting or this or that that's painful plotting or something. That every time you get into anything, they do something annoying and you fall back to, oh god. They go to the train sequence, and I'm pretty sure I played this sequence in a video game somewhere. It just feels like something I played in a video game. And it's shot like a video game, like first person going back and forward. Well, it's not first person, but it's the third person, but the idea of you're following someone back and forward through this train thing, and it feels pretty much a video game, and you feel no stakes. There's lots of characters who are helping them do this rescue in the prison, all of whom die. And who cares? It's like, weren't they your workmates? Aren't you supposed to care a little bit? The worst thing in the film, though, is one of the characters they're trying to protect. Now, the plot is they're trying to get the sister-in-law, the former sister-in-law of Chris Hemsworth's character is married to a gangster in a Eastern European country. Very convenient. Basically, they have to protect and get them from the prison because this prisoner, his parole has been rejected, so he's staying there for ages and there's no way they'll survive it much longer. So they're going to get them out. The father is killed. The son is angry at a certain point when he realizes the father's dead. And once they're out, he phones and tells his uncle, who's the big boss of the family, where they are. So the second act is them coming for the family. All because of a stupid kid who they could have thrown off the building. There's this whole thing about, oh, we'll have to try and let this kid actually get better at what he's doing. But he causes people to die repeatedly by his actions. And he is never sympathetic. The acting of this character is terrible. The writing's even worse. So it's kind of like, do you really want to blame the actor when he's a terrible dialogue? And that's the big problem this film all out, is like, do you want to blame the actor for this performance? You see actors in this film have all been good, give bad performance in this film because the dialogue's so terrible. The first action scene is the best action scene compared to what comes next. There's a whole section in this building where they're blowing up the building, attacking the building from the ground. All these gangsters from this country shooting down police here and everywhere, getting massacred here and everywhere. And there's mass destruction as Hemsworth tries to get the family out, despite the fact this little bugger is really cold on them. And of course, he gets caught by his uncle. And that allows for the final act of Hemsworth going for this little bugger in the middle of nowhere. Let him die. Really. It's like there's no real reason to go get him. And some other important characters die because of the guy, and you're meant to care and you don't. And it's just this whole bunch of action scenes which should look like the directors watched lots of Michael Mann films in this sequence and trying to add them towards like bit of John Wick based Michael Mann. And there's nothing interesting going on. But what's more insulting is after the 25 minutes of pure mayhem and lots of people dead, you know, the villains just drive away and never get caught, chased by the police at all. And it's like, what? And then it says later on, there's a manhunt for them. It's like, yeah, where was the manhunt when they were escaping? Like, they didn't kill all the police. And so there's that sequence, and there's more bad dialogue where Hemsworth meets his ex-wife, and they talk about I guess, son-in-law or something, but it's all terrible. And then he goes to get the boy and, kill lots more of these people and saves the boy and gets arrested at the end. Him and his partner get arrested at the end. And that's the film. And there's a lot of action where Hemsworth in the final act is just shooting all these grenade things at these people who don't seem to know how to fire back or a sniper. And they've only seemed to have one sniper covering the entire ground. Like, why not coordination snipers if we know you're in danger? It just feels like it's no one can fire back. No one knows how to shoot in this gang. So the Hemsworth character is meant to be amazing because he can actually shoot straight. That's it. The film is terrible. It's so the dialogue is ghastly. And basically it's like, I want to do these 3 set pieces. That's it. These 3 set pieces. That's all I'm interested in. There's some stuff in between, but I don't care. And the set pieces aren't that great. And basically, the characters are mass murderers. All of them, the heroes and the villains, people get killed left and right because of them all the time. And it's like, well, why aren't you getting arrested for this? This is you're causing so much damage to everybody from your actions. You're a criminal. It's like everybody's horrible in this film, and it's that kind of thing of the kind of Hemsworth's character can survive almost anything. They do this thing of showing him recover from the first film, but in this film, they have to see he gets hurt, and then he never seems to he can do anything for the rest of the film after that, pretty much. I think, shouldn't this take longer to recover from? And it's just an annoying film. It's like, it's that kind of macho male fantasy going mad. No, I like John Wick. I adore John Wick films. I loved Sisu, but this one was too far. This one was actually like, what? What's going on here? There's like, there's no way again anyone would survive half of this stuff, and it's just as bizarre as it's just as sad as basically those scenes where you have a small woman beating up all these big guys. You think that would never happen in real life. This is the male version of this, where it's like he'd be dead many times before, but not just in the kind of course, as a movie can wait. It's like even in the movie logic, he'd be dead many times before. This is the result. This is absurd. So Extraction 2 is a pile of crap. My most hated film of this whole video. I'm glad to be finished talking about it. It's awful. It got good reviews. It's like, are people morons? So there we go. 2 more to go. Now we're going back to the 80s now for 2 films. First one, Summer School. Now this is by Carl Reiner. This was after he'd had his big hits with The Jerk and Oh God and stuff like that. This is him in a downturn before he retired from being a director and did more acting. And he's actually in this film in a small part. Now, Reiner, you'd recognise the Ocean's 11 movie, the Ocean series. He plays the old guy who is the old con man. But he used to work with Mel Brooks a lot in the 50s and 60s. They came up together, and he had a big career. He's Rob Reiner's father, and he did some good movies. It's that thing of it's a, he did stuff with Steve Martin, like The Man Who Were Played, and things like that. It's one of those things as an old school director who knows what he's doing. So if you give him something, he knows what he's doing with it. And that's what this thing, Summer School, is. I thought I'd never seen this film. And I thought I saw it in video like in the 80s, and I haven't seen it since. And it was really enjoyable. I was surprised how enjoyable it was. Stars Mark Harmon, who's not an actor I usually have much faith in, but he's very good in this because he has a proper director, and he has a script that he can play. Kirstie Alley shows up in this as well as a supporting part, but she's that kind of thing as she's in there as a name, and she has a romance with the lead. But we actually add up her screen time in this film. It's probably 15 minutes. It's not that much. The scenes she's in are good. So the good thing is they do not force her into scenes she doesn't need to be in. They just put her in the scenes she needs to be in, and when she's not meant to be in the scenes, she's not in the scenes. That isn't that the simplest way to do a romantic lead. And the fact is, her and him are sarcastic towards each other. She doesn't put up with bullshit at all. It works really well. So she's not in anything she doesn't need to be in, and she plays off and well and doesn't put up with his nonsense. This is another film where it's about a character having to grow up and learn how to teach, basically, and why he should be a teacher. He's basically a sufferer who's now a PE teacher, and he's just basically skiving through the year as a teacher. He doesn't really care that much. And so he needs a rude awakening. So he's conned into summer school to teach in summer school because the guy who's meant to do it won the lottery. That's played by Carl Reiner. And so he was the last one out of school that day before they went off for the summer. He's meant to go to Hawaii, and turns out he doesn't go because of he's now doing summer school. And he's got all these misfits who are the cliches of every movie of the teenage experience during that generation. In the 80s were lots of teenage movies, lots of actors who look teenage, get lots of work. But that's one of the better ones because it's not about people who are trying to look hip. I think the film did okay, but not amazing because there have been so many films like this come out and people were a bit sick of it at the time. But it did okay. But again, it's one of those films that had more of a following on like cable and things like that and home video when it came out. That's how I saw it, basically. Of course, it was never released over here in the UK and in the cinema, I don't think. I'm not sure it had even gone if it had been here. But the thing is, even though the characters are of a type, because you've got a proper director doing it, even though it's probably not his ideal film, he actually figured out how to make this a good film, despite the idea that it could be a cheesy teen film. So he concentrates on the teacher and learn how to grow up as the main theme rather than the students. The students are actually the point of the film is students don't need to grow up as much as they just need to learn to pay more attention and work a bit harder, and they're fine. It's like it's working the film throughout the film basically teaches them the basics they need. They don't jump out as all of them becoming geniuses at the end of it. There's not that unrealistic thing. It's much more like they just learn the basics to actually get through to the next stage of their life and probably be okay, from being total dead losses to being okay. And that's much better than everyone's dream comes true. It's just much more like, okay. And at the end, most of them are like, oh, that's fine. I now know where to go a bit more now. So I'm not being ignored. So that's fine. So it works out fine. But also allows them to be teenagers, which means they can be lazy, they can be stupid, they can be selfish. So it never ignores all the teenage things that teenagers are like. But at the end of the day, it shows them to be decent people at the core. Once they've made their mistakes, you see them as fairly decent. And they're very tolerant of each other as well. It's a film where you've got two characters into horror movies, and instead of just like mocking them for it, this film goes with it. This film has so many gags involving like bloody limbs, like eyeballs, hands coming off, and everything. It's played for jokes, and they hired a proper effects guy to do it all, so it all looked good. And the idea was these guys who make it love this stuff, and it's like, and it's actually shown to be that's the way into communication. So it's not seen as something that's frowned upon. It's actually seen as something that's actually they've gone too far into it, but it's by actually like actually tolerating it with the characters. He gets them out of it a lot bit and actually get into life a little bit better. And the whole class is sort of that, really. The whole class, I mean, people just tolerate each other's little quirks and things, and they get on with it. And they actually all get into the horror stuff because they realize it's a joke. It's a funny way to offend the squares. So there's tons. Everyone gets the horror gags by the end, and there's some extreme horror gags. But there's another one. There's a surfer who loves surfing, and she's doesn't have a family really, and she has a crush on the Harmon character, And they handled that well because they have him screw it up first in a way that's not dodgy, like sexually or anything, but as a screw up. But eventually, it's a situation where they both learn to actually grow up a bit more. And all the characters learn to grow up a bit more, especially the teacher who really needs to grow up. Again, like Puss in Boots, it's not done ham-handedly. It's a slow process throughout the film. And each stage he learns a little bit more, and he gets better slowly but surely, just like the students do. It's like the joke of the film is they're both getting better together. The students and the teacher are getting better together slowly but surely through lots and lots and lots of mistakes. So it's a really enjoyable film. It's you can get it in iTunes or Amazon, pretty cheap. It's definitely worth seeing. I'm not sure if it's exactly the kind of film that people who watch my channel would watch, but I thought I'd recommend it anyway. Finally, we have Red Sonja. This will be a few minutes at most. Red Sonja was the one I was going to do for the what the hell is this? But there's not enough in it. Now, it was written by George Fraser MacDonald, who wrote the Musketeer films, including Return of the Musketeers, which I've just covered in another video. Ennio Morricone did the score. Richard Fleischer directed it. They have multiple good actors in this film in different parts, and yet it's complete trash. It's like Richard Fleischer's like late career period with Dino De Laurentiis was not good. They made like $1 billion mystery. They did the Conan the Destroyer and this one, Red Sonja, and they're all kind of turkeys. And it was kind of the end of Fletcher's career at that point. And it was a real shame because he'd done some bad films in the past, but he'd done some good stuff too. And these films kind of tainted his career in a sense that what the people who saw these films thought was this guy's a terrible director. And in fact, he'd done Fantastic Voyage. He'd done, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. He'd done The Vikings. He'd done New Centurions. He'd done like so many good films. And his last few were turkeys. And that's what they kind of remembered him for. And it's a real shame. I think it's changing now. I think people are now starting to see some of these other films get released in Blu-ray now. So people who are film fans are now seeing that these are just the last embarrassing films of a director who's past his peak. And it's again, it was like, it's not the worst plot in the world. Morricone tries his best with the score, but Bridget Nielsen can't act. It's really obvious. She can't act. That kills the film. Arnold Schwarzenegger turns up every so often for some scenes, and it feels like he was in the film for like half the time, if that. Like, it feels like there's a lot of filming on without Arnold, and he turned up and did the scenes, and he wasn't that interested, and it was a contractual obligation, and he's more or less said that in the past, like it was not his favorite film. But hell, it's a lot better than Batman and Robin, and this was more enjoyable to watch than Extraction 2, because at least it was Extraction 2. At least this was campy, stupid, fun, full of stupid things going on, full of terrible acting, but it was a big fantasy world. It really was made by a guy who doesn't quite understand the world he was doing. He thought that was a campy world, and he didn't really make it interesting or scary. No matter who he had with him, he just never quite got how to make it work. And I kind of get the feeling that the script was kind of rewritten a lot on the fly, because it's not as witty as George Fraser MacDonald tend to write witty scripts. Yet feeling this script was butchered, like he'd written a version of it, but someone else had butchered it. Because there's bits in there you're thinking, that could be potential, but that dialogue's awful. And we are doing this is awful, and it's like it just feels like it's been like butchered by lots of hands, the script, and it's just this mess, this bludge at the end. But I still really enjoyed it despite how terrible it was. But it just there's no full video available for this one because there's not enough there. There's really not enough there. So that's why I just left it into this video. It's fun. If you want some silly campy stuff, it's fun, but it's not amazing or anything. So hope you enjoyed that. Hope you enjoyed the video. A bit longer than I thought. But that's me for now. I'll see you all later. Right, bye.